If you're ready to unlock more better days, to take control of your health, to push past your limits and unleash your full potential, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Dr. Jeremy Bettle. For over 2 decades, I've worked with elite athletes and high performers, helping them optimize their bodies, strengthen their minds, and recover from setbacks. Now I'm bringing that expertise to you through the Vitality Collective podcast. In each episode, we'll dive deep into the science, strategies, and real-world solutions you can apply right away. Whether it's enhancing your physical performance, avoiding or recovering from injury, sharpening your mental edge, or simply feeling your best every single day. With insights from top experts and thought leaders, this podcast is designed to help you take action, feel better, and live the life that you deserve. Welcome to the Vitality Collective podcast, where every day is vital. Today's guest has done more than 500 races across distances that most of us wouldn't attempt once. Josh Sprague is a serial entrepreneur, founder of Orange Mud, and a lifelong endurance athlete who has figured out how to keep moving through a life that runs at full speed. He's not a professional athlete, but what he's figured out over 2 decades of trial and error is how to build a training life that actually fits around 3 companies, a family, and a schedule that just doesn't cooperate. If you're a high performer who has ever missed a week of training and felt like you failed, or if you have ever gone into a race injured because you refused to pull back, this conversation's for you. Welcome back, everybody. Today, it is such a pleasure to welcome Josh Sprague to the show. Josh is a founder, he's a busy entrepreneur, and he's been racing for over 20 years in these endurance events. And so many of our audience and so many of our clients are high performers. It is difficult to navigate having such a busy life. And being an entrepreneur myself, and Michelle and I on this journey, we really struggled initially in how to fit it into our life, and we're the professionals. So I'm super excited to have this conversation with you, mate.
Likewise. I love talking about doing stupid things and trying to figure out how to still navigate the busy things we call life.
You're at what, 500 plus races now?
Yeah, I've done a lot. I've been at the front of the pack and I've been at the back of the pack.
People try and apply that sort of corporate grind mentality to their exercise. We think it's got to be perfect. I've got to do more. I've got to be disciplined and focused and all of these things that serve you in business.
Yep.
But actually, once we get into our exercise, that's just not how physiology works. I know you've experienced some of that yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when I first signed up to do an Ironman, 20 years ago, I hired a swim, bike, and a run coach, and they were great.
Right.
I learned a lot from them, but I failed literally in the first week because they gave me a 6-day week training program. I worked on average 80 to 100 hours a week in my job, traveled like crazy. And the very first week, I only worked out like 3 or 4 days. I called them. I was like, well, first week didn't go so good. I just didn't have the time to do it. And you can listen to David Goggins, like, you could find the time. You're right. I could wake up at 4, and I could go find the time. I get that. But there is a point of balance. Is that, am I a soldier of training? And the answer is no. I'm about now I'm about being a dad. I'm about being a boss. And there's only so much time in the day to have a reasonable expectation. So when I hired a different coach years later, I was doing leadman training, and I told him right out of the gates, I'm like, I want 4 days. A 5th day is cool, but it's only a bonus, and it's not something I'm gonna. It's not something that if I don't do it, I fail. I only want 4 days because that's all I got. I've got to be respectful of all the other time commitments that I have in my life. And the cool part about that is that I wanted to succeed and I wanted to overperform. I wanted to get that 5th day, but I knew it wasn't required. And to me, that was one of the greatest training blocks I've ever had. And he'd even tell me, he's like, hey, just so you know, on Mondays, you're going to have to run and bike. And Tuesdays, you have to run and bike. And you still got to find them long, run days and the long bike day. But I had it all down to 4 days. And I was like, that's totally cool. I like a reason to go out and exercise for 7 hours straight today.
Yeah.
But it was such a psychological benefit to have a schedule that can work. We all have busy lives. We have busy kids and families, And if you can design something around making you psychologically feel good, and something you can accomplish, you win.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just going to, fall in sync.
We resonate with a lot of that. You mentioned when you had that 6-day training program, week 1, you failed.
Yep.
Right. And that's a mindset. That's this all or nothing mindset that a lot of us high performers have. It's like, well, I didn't get my 6 days, so it's no good.
Yeah.
The massive benefit you got from doing 4 of those 6 days is discounted in your mind because you had a perfect plan and didn't execute it in your mind. Whereas, in business, in your job, if you didn't execute the plan, your business didn't work out, right? So I think that's where this reframe for people really needs to happen around. They think they need this volume, structure, discipline. What they need is less friction and more consistency. You moving to 4 days allowed you to feel really good about it. Great. I got my dopamine hit from finishing my 4 days and I got to execute it every week over a long period of time.
Yep.
That's the goal.
Yeah. And it also is something that I think for a lot of people that are more in that type A category, like I like to be early everywhere I go. But if I was consistently late every time that I go over, say, to your house for dinner, after a while, I'd be like, well, he knows I'm always late. And it's no different in training. It's the same thing. If you have a plan for 6, but you only get 4, then each week you're like, well, you know what? I really only need to do 4 of these. But each week you're going to feel like you're losing. I love small goals. Like every week I want to do minimum 500 push-ups, and I do them in minimum sets of 30. Like this morning I woke up, I was awake way too early this morning. And so I already did 120 push-ups today, but it's just because I was like, well, hey, I'm up anyway. Might as well bang them out. And it just feels good to do it. But it's a small, measurable goal that makes me feel like a hero every day, even though I only exercise for like 5 minutes. Doing 120 push-ups minimum a day. It's 5 minutes.
But that's the key here. We call them exercise snacks. Back when I was in sport, we called it sort of micro doses of exercise.
Sure.
And when you think about professional athletes, you think like working out a lot. What they're actually doing is practicing their sport a lot, and everything else has to fit around it. They're only allowed in the building for 4 hours a day, right? So in that time, they have to get changed, eat their breakfast, get treatment, do video meetings. They have to practice. Our lifts were 20 minutes long. But that allowed us to go 3.5 years in NHL hockey without having a single injury. It allowed us to make the playoffs every year that we were there. They were performing at an elite level. But again, we think we need perfect. Oh, I got to be in the gym for an hour. What actually matters physiologically is doing it consistently.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
I'm really interested in people coming into this world. Like we're just starting our running journey. I've been lifters and power folks with sprinting, and we're just now coming into endurance because we wanted the experience of we really suck at this and we want to do the work to get better.
Sure.
How do you think about that starting process? Maybe it's training for a race. Again, we sort of had that perfect plan in mind.
Yeah. No, I think the best way to start is just do it. Right. And so, I mean, I have the benefit of doing all sorts of events and of all distances, and I've done them all a lot of times. And so psychologically, it's easier for me because the first time I ran, the first time I ran a marathon, I never ran a half marathon. I just went from running, and I thought, I'll go run a marathon. That sounds like a good time. And then we trained. We like joined some running stores club training kind of program thing, and kind of had a piece of paper that told us what to do, and we largely followed it, and we largely sucked at it, but that's what happens in a marathon for most mortals. I think the best way to do it is just to do it, just go, and the structure is great. And I know that over the years, there's so many times where, friends are like, hey, you want to go on a mountain bike ride tonight? I'm like, well, tonight's a level 2 interval ride, and mountain bike is not going to work very well for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am not a professional athlete. What am I doing? Why? Like, I look back at the amount of times where I'm like, can't run with you tonight because I got to go do this cool interval, and it's complicated. You wouldn't understand. You're not going to be able to run fast enough, or I'm not fast enough to run with you, vice versa. And in hindsight, it's like, man, we just needed to do stuff. There's a reason where now I am older and I don't have time to train like I used to. And yet I can still go out and throw down in a 12-hour adventure race or a 24-hour adventure race. Or it's just a mindset. You just have to do it. But that being said, I have a lot of experience on the bike, and there's a lot of mechanics, and I have the mechanic side of it. Well, I understand fit, form, and function of how I'm going to work with that bike. And I do believe if you put in a reasonable amount of effort, that you're going to get largely the same amount of output that you would even if you put in a 5-day-a-week effort. That gain is so small that when I look at maximum training blocks that I've done versus the last 4 or 5 years, I'm either sometimes not even slower now. In some cases, I'm faster.
If we go back to that corporate grind mentality, that more is better in sport, we said we understand those ebbs and flows. And what that means is, when do we push? When do we recover? And understanding the physiology of training, the push, when we actually train, that's when we break down our body, right? We cause damage to the muscles. We cause stress and inflammation in our cardiovascular system, which is the trigger for it to upgrade. Then we have a down day where we recover. That's when we actually adapt to the training. But if we only push, which is what we tend to do, I've got to do more volume, I've got to train harder, we only end up in that breakdown mode.
Right.
So we never actually adapt effectively to the work that we're doing. Two things happen with you. You've built an incredible base. You have over years consistently trained and become incredibly fit. And so it's going to take a little less stimulus for you than it might for me. But the other side of it is, now you're recovering. You're letting your body do what the body does. But because as high performers, we're in this mindset of I need to intervene. I can will this to happen. You can't do that to your body.
No. Yeah, I'd never, over the years, I didn't put the focus on rest like I should have. I think back at the amount of times that I battled injuries for years.
Yes.
And it was just overuse. Patella tendonitis, I used to hate it. I used to have to wear this strap on my knee because my patella tendonitis would kick up. And when I'd had big, long, sustained climbs for long period of times on the mountain bike, or running, going up really, really steep areas after a lot of fatigue. But it's because I was racing 20 to 40 races a year. There was just never time off. It was absolute mayhem. But granted, I was having a lot of fun doing all the races, but it took time off to make me realize, if I just, I got my bike fit better, which ultimately is what it was, to fix it, and then take a little time off to rest, it would heal. We often just feel like we have to grind and we have to put in the time. But sometimes we just need to go for a walk.
Exactly.
Just do something else.
Yeah. We're talking a lot about physical load, but there's also cognitive load.
Yeah.
Right. For us who might be working 80 plus hours a week, like, that's an incredible amount of strain that we're putting on the mind. And just like the body, it will deteriorate in performance if you don't let it recover. And so having those moments where it can just be a slightly different stressor that actually gives you energy back, instead of trying to sprint around your hiking loop, slow down and enjoy the cool rock that you see.
Yeah, quit Stravaing it, which is brutal to worry about Strava. When you're riding, you're like, well, man, I'm riding pretty smooth today. Ooh, God, I'm riding smooth. I should ride harder. This feels too easy. I'm going to push more. I'm going to get a PR today, and I'm going to see if I can move up the rank. No one cares about your Strava time.
I agree. I think that we get caught up in metrics and we move away from just enjoying movement.
Yep. Sure.
And we've forgotten that we used to love just going out and riding our bikes.
Yep.
We did a conversation with Dr. Michael Joyner, the world's leading expert on VO2 max. And I asked him, how should I be training?
Yeah.
And he said, that's really simple. He said, run a lot of miles, some of them faster than race pace, and rest once in a while.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And this guy's run like a 2:20 marathon. Like, this is not like a guy who hasn't done it, who just studies it and talks about it.
Sure.
Like, he's been about it. It's the doing. He actually said, like, VO2 max, okay, it's a cool number to have. But once the number becomes the driver, once the data point becomes the driver, it's no longer useful. Because it's the doing of the activity that is important. Like, what can you actually do?
Yeah.
It is a bit of a challenge to people to leave the watch at home. And I think I'm thinking about it now. I'm struggling to think that I could do that right now, but.
Yeah. Well, and so I am a big fan of, when I go for a run, I often just take my my phone, and I use Strava on the phone. I don't even use my Garmin. I mean, I do like the Garmin, but I know it doesn't always match. Like, I'm like, I know I'm breathing really hard. I know my heart rate is higher than that, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's pieces of it that are neat. Maybe I can see how far I ran, because a lot of times I'm like, oh, I've definitely ran 8 miles. I'm like, wow, I've only ran 3 miles. That's weird. It feels like it's been 8 miles. But what I do like about running with my phone is that I don't think about my heart rate. Over the years, I've learned it doesn't matter. I know where my zones are. I will say that there is an extreme value to learning about training within heart rate zones.
Yeah.
And to understand what a zone is. I don't think it's as important to, once you understand what it is, I think you can go more on RPE. And I always tell people, look, you want to go for a long ways, make sure you can talk while you're exercising. That's it. That's how complicated your heart rate is, right? If you can talk unlabored while exercising, that pace will allow you to go as far as you want to go. There you go.
Yeah.
You don't even need to spend $900 on a Garmin watch, but it's very simple. And all the time that I've spent, I'm like, oh God, hey, we're running a little bit too fast, guys. Like, we've done this in racing. Like, I'm talking like for 24 hours straight. We're out there racing. We're constantly, hey guys, we need to roll this back. We're at approximately 134 beats per minute. I need to be under 129 for this current duration because I plan on doing it. It's like there's benefits to it, and I don't mean to ever, to ruin that for anybody. But I know that I put so much credit into the heart rate training, that once I began power training years ago, using power meters on my bike, it made me realize those numbers were largely hocus pocus and almost irrelevant on the bike. I mean, it was an entirely different shift. Wow, I can push at these numbers regardless of where my heart rate is. I know I can push at those numbers because those are my numbers. That's there. I found power training when riding was one tool that was really, really fascinating. I knew I could average, let's say 180 watts for an incredibly long period of time. Whereas before I'd be like, well, I got to back it off on this hill because I don't want to go into lactic. And all of a sudden it's going to hurt me. So I just think that there's so much that we could do by just stopping, looking at heart rate and going of, just long, slow, steady, and being able to talk. You're good.
Well, that's when when I started enjoying it, was when I stopped worrying about my heart rate.
Right.
I did a lot of bike because I had knee injury playing rugby. That's why I didn't run for 20 years. And I'm just getting back into it now where I'm able to do it. And okay, I gotta do a zone 2 run today. Like, for me to be standing on my feet, like, basically I'm in zone 2 now. It was so hard for me to start because running, my heart rate just gets so elevated when I run. I was trying to go off my heart rate and my watch, but I basically couldn't run.
Yeah.
So when I started going more on RPE, and for those who don't know, RPE is rate of perceived exertion. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Can I hold a conversation at this pace?
Yep.
When I forgot about the watch and just started listening to my body, that's the important piece. Like, how are you feeling? It's been more fun going through and experiencing it, and more productive actually feeling it as we go through, versus having this really detailed prescription. I think that balance of the Strava, the data, the watches, all these different things, helpful when you're starting out.
Yeah.
Have a little motivation, have a little accountability. People can see you're starting up, but they're not leaning on it too hard, which as high performers, we tend to do. I think that's such an important lesson for people.
It is. When I did the first marathon, the rock and roll marathon in Arizona, I think it was 2001. When I was in the start shoot, I thought I could run a 345. So I was in the 345 shoot, which I couldn't run a 345. I mean, I could, but I didn't. I could maybe, but I didn't. But anyway, there were these like group of like 5 or 6 old ladies next to me. I was like, there's no way. I told my girlfriend who was running with me at the time, I was like, there's no way they're going to run a 345. I'm like, hey, I'm fit. We've been training hard. We're going to kick this.
Yeah.
And we both ran like a 420, I think, in that one. So anyway, I talked to them though. And they talked to me first. So like, is this your first marathon? I'm like, as a matter of fact, it is. I'm really excited. We've been training really hard. We've been doing all this training and all this stuff. And they're like, oh man, you're going to have so much fun. And like, we're doing the Galloway method. I'm like, well, what's that? And they're like, yeah, we run, I think it was 6 minutes, walk 2 or 3. It was something like that. I forget the exact numbers that they did, but I remember thinking, there's no way you're going to finish this in 3 hours, 45 minutes if you do it like that. It's just no way. And I was like, okay, ladies, good luck. But I could tell they were very confident. They were very relaxed. They were only having a good time. And when they passed me at like mile 12, I think, they came by and they're like, Josh, how are you? I was getting a drink and I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? I'm like, I'm great. You guys are passing me right now. It's awesome. And I never saw them again. And until the finish line, and they finished 3:45. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need to slow down a little bit. Maybe I need to not care about my pace and I should just run for 5 or 6 minutes and walk for 2. And I maybe wouldn't be in massive pain at mile 18, crawling my way to the finish.
Exactly right.
You know, but again, in today's day, I never hear people talk about the Galloway method anymore.
Yeah,
I'm sure people do it, but why? I bet it's the freaking Garmin watch that people are like, hey man, I can't do that. It screws up my pacing.
Yeah. I've got to have my pacing right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. We just got to slow down to go fast. It sounds weird, but it works.
No, but I think that there's such an important, again, like lessons in there. That's a group of women doing it together, enjoying it.
Yep.
They've got a bit of structure, and it's going to be the push and the recover again, like even within your event, right? So they can go a little faster during the 6 minutes. They're going to recover, and so they can maintain their 6 minute blocks, as opposed to what I've been doing is like going out way too quick, and then the second half I like just absolutely die a death.
Yeah, it's a bear crawl for the rest of the event.
Yeah, it's not even hard and it sucks, right?
Yeah. I don't know why people run marathons.
We assume all of this volume is actually having proportional health benefits for us.
Yeah.
But you have no idea what's going on the inside. We can, but we tend to get a bit complacent when we're fit, and outwardly we look quite fit. But it doesn't necessarily translate to your health.
Yep.
We had an assistant coach. Man, this guy worked his ass off in the gym every day. He had those DVDs, you know, the ones that were like these extreme workouts, but he was always just dripping in sweat every day. He's about 45 at the time. I mean, this guy was killing it every day. One day we're warming up for a practice, and he's getting some shots up with Kevin Garnett. And he's passing the ball back and didn't feel so well. Like he's been having this heartburn. Went back, got his heartburn meds, came back to the court, sat on the basketball stanchion, had a heart attack, and hit the deck. Was probably dead for like 5 minutes.
Wow.
The trainers came out there doing CPR. KG standing over him like, come on, you can do it.
Wow.
Like you got to make it through this. This guy was lean and looked fit, and everyone praised him for how hard he was working every single day. And he dropped down and he almost died of a heart attack. They had to shock him 3 times in the ambulance to get his heart started again.
That's crazy.
And we hear about it all the time, like the widowmaker heart attacks when people are out on these long bike rides. And I think that there's such a balance here between like not only rest and push, but also like going and getting your checkups.
Right? Sure. Yeah, just do some basic blood work.
You need to be on top of your stuff, right? Going to the doctor, getting your blood work, getting your scans. And just to update, he's actually doing quite well now. He made it through, and like,
good. I'm glad to hear Jim's all right.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly why I don't train 7 days a week, so I don't have a heart attack. You know, that's my goal.
Yeah, go to the doctor.
Yeah. No, but I tell you, when I trained for the LA marathon, it was the last marathon I did. I literally went to the start line with an injured foot, and it was because I was doing too much, and I probably did a bad job in some of my training where I was probably not only doing too much, but I probably ramped too fast, too much, but I bruised some of my metatarsals, and man, I was like not far, 15 miles in or something. And I was forced to walk the rest of that thing. I mean, man, I would run until pain was 100%, and then I'd walk until it kind of subside, and I just, it was just the whole rest of that race. That was terrible, absolutely terrible. And so, here you put in all this time and you overtrain, And then you have a horrible event because you go in injured or you go in
Yes.
fatigued, you know.
Yes.
And now when I go to a race anymore, better for worse, when I go in, I'm rested. Like I sleep good at night beforehand. One of the coolest parts of doing a lot of stuff is that you don't get like the butterflies before a race anymore, which in a way is kind of sad. But there's not much that I worry about. I'm like, well, it's just going to be another day, or days. You know, you don't really know, have whatever distance it is. But the psychology is that other piece that is really important, because like you mentioned, you just ran a 10K this weekend. A 10K is hard, right? That's just all out for 6.2 miles. You know, a 5K is hard because there's no cruising pace in a 5K, not for most of us mere mortals. But a half marathon is hard. 10 miles is hard, or jump up to the marathon, it's hard. But once you ran a marathon, then it's actually not as hard, because you're like, hey, psychological, I remember how that was last time. That wasn't so bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it sucked up to from mile 18 and on, just like for most everybody, it's that problem. But otherwise, it wasn't really that bad, because your brain says, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to run at that pace. But once you do a 50K, then, hey, marathon's definitely easy. And once you do a 50 mile, then, well, anything below that's easy. Once you do 100 miles, there's nothing really to scare you unless you're going to do something bigger. But I think that the psychology is the other big piece that really gives people an edge, and you just have to work through those numbers. And once you keep moving them forward, then all of a sudden that output is not scary anymore. But it's just that first time, that's the hard part between putting in time. It's why we all overtrain, because a lot of times it's fear. I mean, when I look at all the races I've done over the years, it's been often fear-based, not necessarily fear, but it's like, it's a goal, right? I'm afraid of, okay, what's it like to do a 550-mile bike race? Well, I don't know. It scares me, but let's do it, And then once you do it once, you're like, well, I mean, could I go further than that? And then when I did that, and then I said, I don't want to do that again. I think 550 is about my limit. I like that. But 700 was too much. And so you start to roll things backwards, but it shapes the psychology to where, my body can do any of these things. All I gotta do is feed it properly, and it can do anything, untrained or trained. Trained is just probably going to work a little bit better, but trained doesn't mean I put in too much time. So the psychology and nutrition is so important, and I believe probably even more important. I would actually say more important than the training. And I know, but not by much, but it's more important than that. That training cycle.
I think that's a really interesting and important perspective on the psychology, because it for me, showing up and worrying I've not done enough, like, your body can do it. It's just at what pace.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm less trained, maybe I just run a little slower.
Sure.
But that psychological approach and the injury piece is really important too. It's something I really struggle with. Is I've got a run, but my calf is a little sore. I don't have to do it. You said earlier a phrase that I want people to listen to. You're not a professional athlete.
Right.
Like my guys that I used to work with, they could show up with a sore calf or a sore groin in the hockey players. They have like the world's best medical professionals that show up every day and get them just feeling so good. They've got the world's best strength and conditioning staff who designed the perfect program and guide them through it. We built a kitchen and hired a team of chefs to make sure they each had their own individualized approach to nutrition. Like, if they showed up with a sore groin, we could make it not sore anymore really effectively and have them go out and push, because it was their job. Right. They had to play, they had to practice. So we got them feeling great. For you and I, like, my calf hurts. It doesn't matter if I go out and do a run or a bike today, right? I don't need to push through that pain. And it's very, very difficult for me to not go out and do the plan, because Strava or Runner says that I've got to run today, and it's going to say you missed your run if I don't do it.
Sure.
Right. So again, helpful to get me started, not helpful when I hurt my calf. Right?
Yep. Nah, and that's, injuries suck. It was like, I think it was 4 years ago now. I went out New Year's Day And I was so excited to get back into running. I put on some weight over the holidays, and I was like, man, it's time. And I got 50 yards outside of our driveway and tore my calf. And then I thought, it'll probably loosen up. And then I kept running for another 4 miles. And man, I came in limping. And it took I don't know, it took a long time, 6-8 months.
Yeah.
It was way too long to get back right.
Yeah.
But I should have just stopped.
For the sake of that one run, right?
Yeah, I mean, I made it 50 freaking yards, but yeah, I wish I had a pro trainer. I do have a Chinese/Thai massage place. They walk on my back and sore muscles, and they bring magic. They really bring magic into muscle relief. But yeah, I wish all of us could have access to the pro docs.
So I think that there's the important thing for people to take away here is that there are different elements to that injury recovery piece, right? And I have to go through it just the same as you do, just as the same as LeBron does, right? It's the same process. Sure. What we tend to do is we think, oh, it's a bit sore, screw it, I'll carry on and do the run anyway. Surely it's not an injury. Yeah, you know very well it is, but
yeah.
And then you gradually, so you tear a few fibers, and then you keep running on it, and you just tear more and more and more and more fibers. Yeah. And so you've got this whole injury process now, where now you've got a period where it's the passive modalities, where you're now going to need to get the massage, the electrotherapy, all these different things that are going to help with tissue healing. But then there's the loading side of recovery as well. So actually the resistance training, strength training is how we ultimately heal and bring us back to the level we need to be at. Right? We get injured when our capacity, and that could be anything, strength, cardiovascular capacity, speed capacity even, doesn't meet the requirements of what we're doing. We haven't warmed up. We've sat at a desk all day.
Yeah.
And then we spring up and off we go.
We're going to go hammer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, so, I've had to go through that process myself, where now we're in a structured strength training program. We start with static holds. We progress to eccentric training, where, it's a calf raise and then you slowly lower down. And then we go into the actual full strength movement, and then we're into plyometrics. And that's just the process for everyone. But we can put that on the other side of the injury as well. Right? We can do that before we get hurt as prevention.
That's what we should do. Yeah. I'm great at getting injured and then working to fix it rather than working to not get injured.
Exactly.
That's always hard. I think it's like that in business, right? We go full speed and we hope everything's going to work until it doesn't, and then we solve the problem, rather than, hey, maybe we should build a foundation for this process so we don't have the problem. I think a lot of us, we know what we should do. It's just hard to do it, That's why we need coaches to be like, hey, you may want to kind of loosen your muscles before you go straight from sitting at your desk for 8 hours and going out and sprinting 5K. Or maybe you warm up. One of the coolest parts of having coaches years ago was the warm-up piece. They're like, running level 1. I just remember thinking, that's stupid. That's way too slow. But because sometimes that meant walking. I mean, honestly, it's 110 in Phoenix. Like when I lived, when I had the coaches, sometimes level 1 was simply walking. And but to warm up for 15 minutes, it was amazing how much better you felt. And then even to cool down. Like right now, I mean, who wants to go out and go for, if you're going to run 4 or 5 miles or whatever it is you run, who wants to wait 15 minutes to be able to actually push it a little bit? And then who's going to have a 10-minute cool down? Who's going to walk for almost a mile to cool down?
Yeah.
Most of us won't ever do that. I don't. I know I'll walk. I'll be like, I'm going to run past my house like 6 mailboxes, and then I'm going to come back, which is definitely not a 10-minute cool down. It's maybe a 45-second cool down. But I mean, maybe it's better than nothing. But I mean, we all feel like we have to push. I don't know. It is. I wish I could fix that, but it's.
And I think as endurance athletes, we've never really been encouraged to do the other things that prepare you for your sport. Right? Like if you're in the NFL and you're going to come up against a 400-pound lineman, you know you probably need to lift some weights.
Yeah.
But we don't realize that running is actually 10,000 single leg plyometrics. right? Running, every step puts 6 to 8 times body weight through a single leg stance, right?
Sure.
So we don't think about it in those force magnitudes like we do when you see an obvious big collision in an NFL game.
Mm-hmm.
And so the importance of us preparing for our endurance sports, and these don't have to take long. This, like you said, like a 15-minute warm-up can include some of the strength training work. Maybe 2 of our days, instead of adding an extra run, we add a weight training day. And it's not power cleans, right? It's, are we strong enough to be on one leg with 6 times body weight coming through that in a very short amount of time? We'll do things like banded hip work. We'll do some jump rope to make sure the calf and Achilles are pliable and they're used to that quick stretch, shortened stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do some work for the hamstrings and some activation for the quads. All this stuff that prepares us for the sport we're about to participate in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so easy. I think it's why running is so good for high performers, is because I can literally shut my computer off and be out the door in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's so accessible versus drive to the gym and do all
Sure.
this stuff.
Yeah, but then again, to do drills is not fun, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember my coach Ann, she was like, Josh, you need to do butt kicks, when you basically
Yeah.
kick your heel to your butt.
Yeah.
She's like, you need to work on elongating your stride, and that'll help you run more efficiently and cause less damage. And I'd try. I'm like, man, that's really hard. I don't want to do that. Or
Right.
you need to do side steps to build up a lot of your lateral
Yep.
muscles, that your supporting muscles. But again, I just wanted to get the mileage in. To me, that was more important. And even though I had training for the sequences that I should be doing, I didn't often do them like I wanted. If I had a choice, and again, that was a 6-day-week training program. If I had a choice, I would skip those, and that's what I would do.
Yes.
I would just focus on, well, hey, no, let's go for a run tonight. That'll be fun. Let's go to the trails. We'll go run for 2 hours. This will be great. But yeah, man, it's the supporting exercises are so important. But I bet 95% of people out there don't do them because we don't want to. It's not fun.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think there's either a lack of education or there's just a default into this compressed time schedule that we've got. And you think, well, the biggest return on my time investment here will be the actual run.
Mm-hmm.
What I want our listeners to take away from this is the thing that gets you better is consistency over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that takes that away is getting injured.
Sure.
Right. All of this stuff is designed to stop you getting hurt. And if we can keep you on the road, on the trail, if we can keep you doing that consistently, you will improve dramatically. We end every episode with 3 takeaways. What would be your 3 key things to take away?
Yeah, I would say the very first is just, if you have a program and something's failing, at least if nothing else, just go do something. And that can be a walk, a hike, a bike, a run. It doesn't matter what it is. Activity is better than anything else. The second thing would be, try to at least once a week, go slow. I hate going for walks. Like, my wife likes to walk. I can't stand walking, but I do go, and I know it's good for me. I just find it boring because I feel like I always have to be pushing, always.
Yeah.
And it's just in my DNA. But I do believe, slow down, go for a walk on the days that you can't get something else in, even if it's just 20 or 30 minutes or 15 minutes for that matter. And then the third part is just work on the mindset. The mindset to me is one of the most important pieces of, why am I doing this? Is it for fun? And if the answer is yes, which in most cases it should be, if it's for fun, then just remember you're doing this for fun.
Right.
Go have fun doing it. I have spent enormous amounts of time over the years feeling like, oh, I can't do that next weekend or the next quarter because I have so many training blocks that I have to do all these things. And I can't go on a 3-hour leisure ride because it's just not going to work with my program. And in hindsight, I should have taken advantage of more enjoyment and slowed down, enjoy the ride. The fourth nugget I will say is that I've known a lot of people that race, and I have done the same thing. I think sometimes you got to take a break and just train to just have fun rather than
Yeah.
feel you have to race. I don't race as much as I used to. And don't get me wrong, I like to compete. It's a lot of fun, but I really enjoy that I was able to break the mold of feeling like I have to go do that run because I like those people that put it on and I want to go support their event. It's more of, hey, I'm going to work on my own mental happiness and I'm just going to go for a trail run that weekend, or I'm going to go for a long bike ride. So you don't have to have something of structure. Just go have fun doing it.
I just love that. And can you tell us a little bit about Orange Mud? Like, tell us a bit about what you've built.
Yeah. No, I started Orange Mud 14 years ago just to make a backpack to make running easier for me. I wanted the backpack to float with my body and carry the fluids for a race. I wanted to be able to run my own nutrition strategy in a race. I think one of the best successes to completing anything is having the proper nutrition. During the race, most people have problems because they just didn't get calories and electrolytes. You only need really those two things, and you can go all freaking day. So I wanted to have my own strategy. So I built a backpack to hold a water bottle in my back and upper back rather than a waist pack. And it's really light and carry my phone for music or a podcast and then cash for the beer garden afterwards. That's all I wanted. I wanted something simple. That's what started Orange Mud, but then it spun into trail running and then mountain biking. And now we have a whole slew of hydration packs and gym bags and all kinds of things. Years in, it's great. I get to go out and, do training rides to test out new gear. But yeah, it's been a good time.
Where can people find the equipment and where can people follow along with what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah. Just look us up at Orange Mud, orange like the fruit, mud.com. And you search my name, you can find me anywhere. You can always reach out there. We just love to get everybody outside. That's the whole goal.
Outstanding. Well, Josh, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this. It's been so much fun, comparing my beginning endurance journey with your vastly experienced journey. And I think I got a way to go, but I'm enjoying the process.
Oh, you're going to crush it. I can't wait to hear how you do.
I'll keep you up to date along the way.
Right,
Josh, thanks so much for coming today.
Yes, sir.
It was great having Josh on the show today, and he gave us 3 things to carry out of this conversation. Number 1, if your program is breaking down, just do something. A walk counts. A hike counts. Movement beats the plan every single time. Number 2, go slow at least once a week. A 15-minute walk on a day when nothing else fits is not a failure. It's exactly the right call. Number 3, remember why you're doing this. If the answer is fun, protect that. The rigid plan is supposed to serve the experience, not replace it. If this episode resonated with you, the best way to support the show is to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts and leave a rating or a review. It makes a real difference in helping us reach more people who could benefit from these conversations. You can stay connected with us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Vitality Collective Performance, where we share additional insights, behind-the-scenes content, and updates on upcoming episodes. The information shared in this episode is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your training, recovery, or health practices. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.